Hello everyone. So in this video, we're going to talk about two important concepts in ReactJS. First one is state and the props. Okay. So what is meant by a state? Where do you use it, and what do you mean by a props? And then how to use it, and what are the features, etc. That is what we're going to discuss in this tutorial. So if you're watching my channel for the first time, please do subscribe and hit the bell icon so any new videos that I upload will come to you as a notification. So please subscribe. So let's get started. So I have a basic application here, so where you have the index.js, we just call the app, and in the app we just have one label which says I'm from app.js. Okay, and my application is running in local and localhost 3000, and I can see I'm from app.js. Okay, so that's pretty much this app has. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we'll just talk about what is state first, and then we will move to what is the props. Okay, so state, right? So when you say state is basically used to manage the state of a component. Okay, let's say if you have a class component written, and then if you want to have store some data, and then if you want to just update this data and then render the view again, all those stuff, right? So basically to store the data for a component, and then to manage the data, to update it, all those things, right? So that is where you use the state. So let's try to create a component. Okay, so here I'm going to create a folder component, and then I'm going to create a file. I'm just calling it as parent.js. So parent is my component name. So I'm just importing React from React, creating it as a class component. So class parent extends React dot component. Okay, so I'm creating a render, and then return. I'm just returning nothing but just a div which says I am from parent component. Okay, now I'm going to export this, export default parent, and now what I'm going to do is, this is just a simple component. As you see, there is nothing much, just one label. Okay, so now I'm going to import this parent component here, parent from /components, then parent. Okay, and then I'm going to call this parent from here. So what happens is, so now from the app we are invoking the parent, and then parent just has one label. So when I reload the screen, I can see I'm from parent component. Okay, so I'm seeing it as I'm from parent component. It's simple, right? So now we could create some initial state, and then we will try to update the state and see how rendering happens, all those stuff, right? So as you know that the class component has a default constructor method, and where you can use some initial states. Okay, so here is how you initialize a state. This dot state equal to, then let's say if I have I'm initializing a state name as John, okay, and age as 30. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to display this name and age in the component here. Okay, so now what I can do is I'm going to create a name, and then this dot state dot name. This is how you put a name component, name state. I'm sorry. So next is age. We put this dot state dot age. So what we did was we just created an initial state, and we're just trying to print those out in the in the UI. Okay. Just put a break statement here. So now if you reload the screen, you can see name is John and age is 30. It's perfect. Okay, so it's displayed. Now next thing what we are going to do is, so let's say if I have a button here, and then if I on click of the button, I want to like update the name to Mark and then age to 25. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. So for that I'll just put a break here so that the button that I'm creating now will come in the next line. So button update state. Okay, now update state, I'm clicking on click event equal to this dot update state. Okay, so now I am creating this update state. I'm creating an arrow function here. Then what I'm doing is, so to update the state, right, so we have a function called the set state. That is, set state is actually used to update the state. So I'm just doing a set state of, this is how we do it, call the set state method, and inside that name I'm going to set it as Mark, comma, age I'm setting it as 25. Okay, so what happens is, initial state I will have John and age is 30, and when I click on this button update state, it should update the state and then it should set the name to Mark and the age to 25. Okay, let's see how things work. So I have the name and John, age is 30 as the initial state. I have the update state button. I click on it. It changes the state to Mark and 25. Oops, great. So this is the basic use case of a state. How do we use state for? We can initialize a state here and then you can update. So it's basically to manage the data of a component. That's where we use the state. Okay. So next is we'll go to a props. Okay. So what do you mean by props, right? So let's say if I have like multiple components. Let's say if I have parent and then I have a child, and if I want to pass some value from the parent to the child, that is when we use the props to pass the data from one component into another component. Okay. Let's see how we can do that. I'm creating another component here, child.js. Okay. So now what I'm doing is I'm just creating it as a functional component. You can create as a class component too, but since I don't have anything state to manage there, I'm just creating a functional component here. Okay. So const child equal to this one, creating a function, then return of div, then div. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm just importing this child here, child from child, and what I'm doing is I am calling this child from here. Let's put a break statement here, putting a child, and I'm saying I'm from child component. Okay. Now when I load this component, I should see the name, age, and then I should see the button, and then child component should render the I am from child component. Okay, let's see if child doesn't have default. So I do this always. Export default child. So now I have name, age, which is the initial state. If I click on it, it updates the state, and this is from the child component. Okay. Now we can see how we can pass this value, right? So let's say if you want the name and the age, right, to be passed to the child component, and if you want to display the name and the age from the child component too. Okay, this is how we pass it. So we pass as props. So this is how we define a prop. Name equal to this dot state dot name. So what happens is, This state will be passed to the child component using the property name. Okay, and age equal to this dot state dot age. So this dot state dot age will be passed to the child component as a property age. So in the child component, I'll have this props. So basically, I'll get all this data that you passed from here: props, name, age, everything there. So I just need to take props.name to get this value and props.age to get this value. Okay. So I have the props here and name in child component is props.name. Okay. Break. Sorry. Age in child component is props.age. So now I should see the name John and 30, and then update state. I should see the child also rendering the same thing. Okay, let's see if it works. Yeah, John 30, name in child component is John, and age in child component is 30. So if I update the state, its state is updated, so immediately that is being passed to the child component too, and it is rendered. So basically, this is the basic difference between the state and the props. So state is usually used to manage the state within the component, and props is used to pass data from one component into another component.